Hello, everyone. I'm James Milan. Welcome to this DPCD update. I am joined by the director of that department. As always, Jennifer Raitt is here with us today. Hello, Jenny.
Hello, nice to see you.
And you. Happy real spring, it feels like these days. So let's hope that continues. Um,
Great.
we are going to, gosh, we have a lot to talk about today. Often say that. Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. We are going to discuss town meeting, of course, which is upcoming, and specifically the zoning articles that we've alluded to before that are put forth by Arlington's redevelopment board, which you work with so closely. And then we'll also hear about upcoming DPCD events of various sorts and the opening of the new community center, which we have been awaiting for a while. But let's start first with a familiar topic for those who have been tuning in to these updates in recent weeks and months, and that is the ongoing distribution of ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act funds, in a number of different ways in the community. So can you just give us an update on what's happening with ARPA funded initiatives?
I can. The ARPA funded initiatives that I was going to give an update on are just related to what the Department of Planning and Community Development is working on. There are other funds being allocated to other projects, just to be clear to people viewing this this right
Yeah,
now.
thanks
Um,
for that. That's good.
that this is about the Tenant and Homeowner Assistance Fund, and also about an upcoming launch of the Transformative Growth Grants program, which will be aimed at businesses and nonprofits. So on the Tenant and Homeowner Assistance Fund, we actually are now accepting additional pre-applications. We're going to be accepting them on a rolling basis to ensure that all residents who are eligible for this program are aware of the program and of the opportunity. The fund has been providing both rental and mortgage assistance to Arlington households that have been impacted by the economic instability that has been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The program, as I mentioned, is open to renters and homeowners of households of all income levels are eligible to apply. The pre-application form is available at arlingtonma.gov/ARPA and also at Town Hall in the Department of Planning and Community Development office. And we're just reopening this opportunity because we did have applications and we were able to confirm a number of those applicants being eligible, but we still have additional funds available. And so we're continuing to accept new applicants at this time. The Transformative Growth Grants program is going to be open in early next month, and we'll anticipate having those applications open and available through for a full month. And it's open to businesses and nonprofit organizations that have also been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. These, of course, include restaurants, arts and entertainment industry, childcare, retail, salons, and many others. Applicants will be eligible to apply for the funding for things such as placemaking, new programs, expanded programs, facilities and infrastructure improvements, personnel, and or planning projects. We're hoping that we're going to be very flexible with this program opportunity and that it will be available to at least 20 businesses and nonprofits in the community. But that will be coming up.
That is really good news on both fronts, and nice to hear that there are still funds remaining for the first of the initiatives that you were describing there.
Yes.
That's great. Get homeowners, get your acts together. Okay, there are also a couple of events upcoming on the DPCD calendar. So can you just let us know what residents should know?
Yes. On May 5th at 7 p.m., the department is hosting a panel that is basically a combination of talking about affordable housing and climate policy, and to understand the
Hmm.
intersection between both housing policy and climate policy. So we're very, very much looking forward to this session. It's going to be an opportunity for us to talk about both our housing plan and our net zero action plan, and then also we've invited a number of people who work in these different fields to talk about how they've applied both housing and policies and climate policies to the different work that they've done. There will be opportunities for people to ask questions as well. We also were part of one of the hosts of Zoning Demystified, which was an opportunity to talk about both what is a little bit of details about the zoning bylaw in Arlington, as well as the zoning map, and learn from experts in the field about zoning and land use regulations and sort of the history of planning throughout Metro Boston, but also just broadly how these sorts of laws are in place and what they mean. Very basic level introductory to zoning, and I think one that anybody who's been interested in or following different issues around development might be interested in viewing. And so that is available for view as well on the town's website.
Excellent. All right, town meeting.
Okay.
We've discussed in the past quite often how closely you work with the redevelopment board on zoning articles that come up before town meeting for a vote pretty much each year. So can you just walk us through what the zoning articles are that town meeting will be voting on this year and what residents should know about them?
Yes, absolutely. So the Arlington redevelopment boards report to town meeting, which is also available on the town's website, both on the town meeting page and the redevelopment board page, outlines all of the different warrant articles that were reviewed by the board. All of these articles went through a public hearing process. The board deliberated and then voted on a recommendation that goes to town meeting. There's 18 articles. I'm only really planning to focus on 3 of them with you.
Good.
But so um, there's a number of articles that were proposed by citizen petition, which means that 10 registered voters had proposed a warrant article, and that becomes a warrant article that might be heard at town meeting. So there are a number of those types of articles. There are also articles that were developed in partnership with the Zoning Bylaw Working Group, which is a group of the master plan that helps to implement the master plan. And then the redevelopment board's 3 primary articles that I wanted to talk about. Those are basically 2 of the articles are related to our business districts. One of them is called Enhanced Business Districts, and this would be a zoning bylaw amendment that helps to implement the Arlington Master Plan to support essentially desirable and more appropriate building, either new construction or redevelopment, so that the streetscape, has a little bit more activation. Nobody wants to walk by, windows that don't have a lot of activity, or a lack of windows, or a lack of visibility or transparency of, a certain type of operation, whether it's a commercial realm or other types of uses. This bylaw amendment would allow the redevelopment board, rather, through their special permitting process, to require that new development and also redevelopment would have a certain level of the streetscape, which is the area that's adjacent to the sidewalk or any public right of way, to be, transparent and active and engaging. So that is what that particular bylaw amendment does. Basically creates a set of standards.
So so it will create standards for those desired outcomes to happen.
Yes.
And then people will still have some flexibility, obviously, about how they're going to implement those.
There will be flexibility, and there could be flexibility if there's not any significant changes with the use or with to the actual ground floor. This is all about what's happening on the ground floor. The other amendment that I wanted to mention is a requirement related to the installation of street trees. Often when we have more significant new construction or redevelopment, we also see that there are some opportunities to rejuvenate our streetscape, which is, again, that sort of public right of way where there's, either sidewalk, maybe a bus shelter, maybe street lights, lots, signage, benches, other types of amenities, and trees. And we want to be intentional about tree placement, but we also want to make sure that it's clear that we want to not just encourage new trees to be planted, but to also make that a requirement, especially when we're dealing with really significant reconstruction or redevelopment efforts. And we have had a number of opportunities to do that. And usually there's, as part of the special permitting process, a developer might, you know, put on their plans that they want to plant new trees. So usually it's an automatic, but we want to make it clear that that's also a requirement and put forth specific and clear standards for tree care. Because, planting the tree is one part of it, but we want to make sure that those trees also can actually be healthy and survive. So this is another bylaw amendment that would be, again, as part of a special permitting process overseen by the redevelopment board. This would be another added requirement to, again, when there's actual redevelopment or new construction taking place in our business districts, an opportunity to rejuvenate that streetscape with trees.
Yeah, I love a couple of things in what you just said for sure. One is that it's a requirement now. This is not a recommendation. This, assuming this goes through, it would be a requirement. Secondly, that as you said, it's not about just the planting of the trees. It's about the care and maintenance of those trees. So I think most Arlingtonians are very aware and in accord about the importance of our tree canopy here in town. So wonderful news.
Yes, I agree. And, it advances many climate and, various public health goals that we all share in the community. Of course, when there's, a barrier to planting a new tree, that would be, considered by the board. So it's a requirement, but similar to the other bylaw amendment, the board, has the discretion to, evaluate a situation where it might not be appropriate. There might not be the sidewalk width or other, conditions that make it more challenging to plant a new tree, and we would understand that.
Right. So there might be legitimate exceptions. I think you're saying.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
The third amendment is about solar installation, and again, similarly, we often have applicants who come to the redevelopment board as part of a special permitting process with an interest in achieving what's called LEED, energy efficiency goals in their development. One of those standards that is considered as part of those energy efficiency goals relates to solar. And the board is very interested in both solar energy systems as well as solar ready buildings. We had discussed this as part of bylaw amendments that were actually made last spring annual town meeting. And so some of those we're making sure we have some good definitions in our zoning bylaw so we know what we're talking about when we're requesting these types of things with new applicants. But also we've now made it, we would like to make it rather a requirement for solar energy systems to be installed when at least 50% of the roof area of a building or buildings that are subject to review by the board are able to, handle that solar energy system. It would, there are a variety of, similar to the other bylaw amendments that are being proposed, there are exemptions and there are exceptions. But this would enable us to really not just encourage, but actually get to solar ready and solar installations in both, I think, some commercial structures that have certainly the capacity for it. But making it a requirement also means that they would have to build the building to have the load to be able to carry those solar energy systems as well. And so those are the types of things that we want to require, aligns with our net zero action plan, as well as, many other town goals around sustainability.
Absolutely. Yeah. More attractive, more energy efficient. These are what these bylaw amendments are seeking, it sounds like to me. So let's hope things go smoothly.
Yes.
All right, if that is
That
it
was
for at least this preview of town meeting from the Arlington Redevelopment Board perspective. Obviously, as you mentioned, many other zoning amendments also or other kinds of articles to be considered, but this is an update, so we will take those three. Folks may think we're done, but we're not. And, I had mentioned this earlier, but the senior center and central school that's located just behind Town Hall at the intersection of Academy and Maple, I believe, will soon be reopening. And boy, we've been awaiting this for quite a while, and it's going to be reopening as Arlington's new community center. So tell us about the project and the upcoming opening. Other than the fact that we should be excited about this, uh, what else can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that it is extremely exciting that we are bringing this project to a close. It is a $8.5 million project that had been in the works for many years. I think started in earnest with a feasibility study in 2015, which led to the hiring of an architect who designed the ground floor, first floor, and some of the second floor office suites to get a full scale renovation, as well as making sure that all of the building systems were updated. Hiring an owner's project manager as well, who would help us to oversee and coordinate the building project. And then, of course, securing the funding from the town to help it to move forward, because this is fully funded by the town of Arlington, and we can't thank the town enough in serving a really important part of our community. It's our older people in our community. But also it's the entryway to into community activities. There's a lot of other programs and opportunities that happen in the building. And so we're very excited to be able to kind of bring that all together in the new space. And the new space is really wonderful. There's opportunities for exercise in more appropriate rooms to do so. There's a cafe, there's a game room, there's a brand new pool room. There used to be a pool room upstairs that's now on the ground floor. There's a lovely new waiting area that's adjacent to the Council on Aging offices. And then in the Council on Aging's new offices, there's also private consultation rooms where people who would like to see a social worker or a public health nurse or somebody who they would just like to have a private meeting with will have the opportunity to do so. And then on the first floor, we completely reimagined the main room so that it is now both could be a big main room, but also can be two smaller rooms with a divider between them, but also soundproofing, so you can have two separate quiet meetings. And that is a very big change. We also changed the way that you enter the second floor with the stairway. So there's also a greater level of silence between those two floors and anybody who's walking around on the first floor. There's a long grand hallway now that basically unites both of the west and east entries of the building. One's at Maple Street on the side and one's on Academy Street. On the Maple Street entry, it is now fully accessible both inside and outside, so that inside you can come in. You can also take a lift to the ground floor for other activities, as well as come into the first floor and go to the elevator. And then on the exterior now, this picks up the work that we did in 2018 to reconstruct the driveway and create a ramp and dedicated accessible parking in the rear of the building for both cars and vans. So it's completely accessible at this point. And on the other entry, we completely redid the stairs leading into Academy Street, which look wonderful, brand new railing, all railings, and new doors, which for anybody who might remember the doors, they will now in fact close. And so we also put on the first floor a brand new arts and crafts room, which is a sun-filled room and lovely decorations, I might add, by the Council on Aging staff throughout the building, but with particular care in the arts and crafts room for lots of different people who use that room throughout the day. The last room on the first floor is the commercial kitchen, as well as I forgot about the drop-in room, which is the area where people often hang around and have coffee. There's many events that happen in that room as well. And on the second floor, we basically moved all of the Health and Human Services offices, which had been on the ground floor, to the second floor, including consolidating some of their staff who had been at Town Hall back into their department offices on the second floor. and also provided them with 2 very large new conference rooms. Again, a really wonderful full renovation. It looks wonderful, and we're excited to cut the ribbon on May 5th at 5 p.m. Outside on the Maple Street entry at the semicircle.
All right, May 5th at 5 p.m. Mark your calendars, folks, because I have to say, given that this is going to continue to be the resource for our older residents in town, but also expanded to clearly have reasons for lots and lots of people to be moving in and through our new community center. And with all the different spaces you described, I just got to believe this is going to be one busy place. So
I
it'll. Sorry, go
really
ahead.
hope so. Yeah, I really want it to be an active place all hours of the day. Right now the Council on Aging essentially operates from 8 to 4, and it is a space that's available to anybody in the community. Anybody who wants to use the space should contact the department to book rooms and or rent the rooms for special events. There's lots of opportunities there, and we're very excited to be able to do that again.
Well, phew, I have to say, I'm going to ask you if you got anything to add. I am going to be surprised if the answer is yes, but I will ask the question anyway.
Well,
Anything
there
to
were
add, Jenny?
two quick reminders. One is just a survey deadline,
Ah,
2
yes.
surveys. The BLUEbike survey deadline is April 29th to fill that out, to help us to look at how the existing BLUEbikes bike share system is working in Arlington, and any ideas that people might have about expanding the system. And then the town-wide survey that is put out by Envision Arlington, the deadline for that survey is now May 1st. Those are my
Great.
only 2 announcements.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It has been a content-packed, let's say 22 minutes or so. Hope that folks have hung in there with us because you had a lot of good stuff to share with us today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have been speaking, of course, with the director of our Department of Planning and Community Development for this DPCD update. She is Jennifer Raitt. I am James Milan. We appreciate Jenny's time as always, and we appreciate yours as well. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.